We are live.
Yay! Happy Friday, everybody. I am Old New Dude. He is,
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
and this is John 8. This is a very good chapter. I've been looking forward to this ever since Wednesday. Um, I'm not going to go into the trailer or anything like that. I just want to kind of get into this chapter. So, if you've watched any of these, we start with brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter. I'm laughing at Lizzie, and then and then I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. So take it away, Richard.
Clash 68, the penultimate chapter. John 8. Are you a man of the Night's Watch? Is your sword sharp, Jon Snow? When Cor and Half Hand told him to find some brush for a fire, John knew their end was near. It would be good to feel warm again, if only for a little while, he told himself while he hacked bare branches from the trunk of a dead tree. Ghost sat on his haunches, watching, silent as ever. Will he howl for me when I'm dead, as Bran's wolf howled when he fell? John wondered. Will Shaggy Dog howl, far off in Winterfell, in Greywind and Nymeria, wherever they might be? The moon was rising behind one mountain, and the sun sinking behind another as John struck sparks from flint and dagger, till finally a wisp of smoke appeared. Corin came and stood over him as the first flame rose up, flickering from the shavings of bark and dead, dry pine needles. As shy as a maid on her wedding night, the big ranger said in a soft voice, and near as fair. Sometimes a man forgets how pretty a fire can be. So this should be a full moon based on the description of the timing here. Should I
Yeah,
give my moon? Should I give my moon summary or not?
that's your call. I do like the shy maid reference.
Oh yeah, right. And we see Triplets Targaryen's episode 3. Yeah, 3. That'd be Aegon's 3. Anyway, Aegon the 7th. So the moon takes 29 and a half days to cycle, rising about 40 minutes later each day. When it's near the opposite side of the Earth as the sun, almost in a blood moon lunar eclipse position, it'll be full, rise near sunset, and set near sunrise. When it's on the same side of the Earth as the sun, almost in a solar eclipse position, it will be new and rise near sunrise and set near sunset. About 1 week after the new moon, it will be first quarter or half moon waxing, rise near high noon and set near midnight. About 1 week after a full moon, it will be third quarter or half moon waning, rise near midnight and set near noon. Any moon above the horizon near sunset and below the horizon near sunrise would be a waxing moon. Any moon above the horizon near sunrise and below the horizon near sunset would be a waning moon. You tell time in months by counting the number of moon cycles you see. A new moon is the beginning of a new cycle, which is where the name comes from. And the most recognizable phases are named quarter moons, and is therefore common for societies to keep time in a 7-day format. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. He was not a man you'd expect to speak of maids at wedding nights. So far as John knew, Corin had spent his whole life in the watch. Did he ever love a maid or have a wedding? He could not ask. Instead, he fanned the fire with his stiff gloves to warm his hands and sighed, wondering if ever a kiss had felt as good. The warmth spread through his fingers like melting butter. And you gave a nice little Quentin O there. Did you think of something?
No. On my side, you froze, uh,
Oh,
so you're back. It's fine.
this chapter was your first time that Chris joined the book club on Discord. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, was I there for that? I might have been there for that. I can't remember. Anyway, um, the half-hand eased himself to the ground and sat cross-legged by the fire, the flickering light playing across the hard plains of his face. Only the two of them remained of the 5 rangers who had fled the Skirling Pass, back into the blue-gray wilderness of the Frostfangs. At first, John had nursed the hope that Squire Dallbridge would keep the wildlings bottled up in the pass, but when they had heard the call of a far-off horn, every man of them knew that Squire had fallen. Later, they spied the eagle soaring through the dusk on great blue-gray wings, and Stone Snake unslung his bow, but the bird flew out of range before he could so much as string it. Eben spat and muttered darkly of wargs and skin changers. They glimpsed the eagle twice more the day after, and heard the hunting horn behind them echoing against the mountains. Each time it seemed a little louder, a little closer. When night fell, the half-hand told Eben to take the squire's garron as well as his own, and ride east for Mormont with all haste, back the way they had come. The rest of them would draw off the pursuit. Send Jon, Eben had urged. He can ride as fast as me. Jon has a different part to play. He's half a boy still. No, said Corrin. He is a man of the Night's Watch, as he will prove.
Mm-hmm.
Charles says, hand pink waving. When the moon rose, Eben parted from them. Stone Snake went east with him a short way, then doubled back to obscure their tracks, and the three who remained set off toward the southwest. So if Eben parted close to a month ago, this would have been near sunset. If not, this would not be near sunset, but I don't think George understands that. I think George believes moonrise and sunset coincide for every phase of the moon, which is not how moons work. Fat pink hand. After that, the days and nights blurred one into the other. They slept in their saddles and stopped only long enough to feed and water the garrons, then mounted up again. Over bare rock they rode, through gloomy pine forests and drifts of old snow, over icy ridges and across shallow rivers that had no names. Sometimes Corrin or Stone Snake would loop back to sweep away their tracks, but it was a futile gesture. They were watched. At every dawn and every dusk, they saw the eagle soaring between the peaks, no more than a speck in the vastness of the sky. They were scaling a low ridge between two snow-capped peaks when a shadow cat came snarling from its lair not 10 yards away. The beast was gaunt and half-starved, but the sight of it sent Stone Snake's mare into a panic. She reared and ran, and before the ranger could get her back under control, she had stumbled on the steep slope and broken a leg. Ghost ate well that day, and Corrin insisted that the rangers mix some of the Garren's blood with their oats to give them strength. The taste of that foul porridge almost choked Jon, but he forced it down. Each cut a dozen strips of raw, stringy meat from the carcass to chew on as they rode, and left the rest for the shadow cats. Ooh, so this is sort of Jon's weirwood paste in a way.
Yeah.
The way he's choking it down, and he's sort of becoming a different person in this chapter with Joy of the Wildlands. So anyway, yeah. There was no question of riding double. Stone Snake offered to lay in wait for the pursuit and surprise them when they came. Perhaps he could take a few of them with him down to hell. Corrin refused. If any man in the Night's Watch can make it through the frost fangs alone and afoot, it is you, brother. You can go over mountains that a horse must go around. Make for the fist. Tell Mormont what Jon saw and how. Tell him that the old powers are waking, that he faces giants and wargs and worse. Tell him that the trees have eyes again. So this old powers awakening line has caused the Order of the Green Hand to believe the children are the enemy. I'm not really convinced, but I think it is supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree. Yeah,
you tend to agree that the children are the real enemy.
Yeah, the whole I wasn't convinced until they're sitting in the cave and Leaf is talking about everything that man did to the children of the forest, and Bran's like, if that was me or if that was us, I mean, we would be angry, fighting back, getting
yeah, they're definitely dishonest with him. I'll grant you that they're definitely dishonest with him. Like the fact that he goes and sees the singer, and that's one of the ones that he refers to with he and him pronouns, which I think is people seem to believe based upon the show and some of the names that they see them all as feminine, even though Bran calls them wise old men, and even refers to at least one of them as both he and him. So that's not what's portrayed in the books, but people have been colored by the show.
Yeah, well, I tend to believe that, and it's not a widely accepted theory, I guess, that the children of the forest are the ones that are reanimating the dead. They've stolen or copied the power from the White Walkers, and basically pulling a little finger and causing a war between man and the White Walkers, so they take each other out, and the children of the forest basically reap the rewards and get their world back without man.
I think that the reason the children are so scared of the idea of Bran raising the dead is foreshadowing of Bran trying things that don't work, trying paths in the timeline that don't work. But of course, with George, it's usually multiple things, and he likes to keep his options open. So, yep, it's definitely possible. He has no chance, Jon thought when he watched Stone Snake vanish over a snow-covered ridge, a tiny black bug crawling across a rippling expanse of white. So our characters are often wrong. So I believe in you, Stone Snake.
Hello.
Yeah, it was a ringing. After that, every night seemed colder than the night before and more lonely. Ghost was not always with them, but he was never far either. Even when they were apart, John sensed his nearness. He was glad for that. The half-hand was not the most companionable of men. Corin's long gray braid swung slowly with the motion of his horse. Often they would ride for hours without a word spoken, the only sounds the soft scrape of horseshoes on stone and the keening of the wind, which blew endlessly through the heights. When he slept, he did not dream, not of wolves, nor his brothers, nor anything. Even dreams cannot live up here, he told himself.
I I did not realize that Cord Halfhand had a long braid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if Val is who we think she is with her long braid, uh,
Tying them together symbolically.
well, yeah, kind of. I mean, I've been a like most people or some people that Corn Halfhand was the uh,
Lord
Gerald
Commander.
Hightower, but um, if the braid is a symbolic connection between him and Val, then wouldn't that make, or could that make the Halfhand Sir Arthur Dane, and then
I,
Mance Raider would be Rhaegar?
um, so Mance Raider is revealed to us twice, each time with the Dornishman,
Yeah,
right? And so he's a two-handed sword specialist. He's
I
his
know. I'm just throwing that
instrument's
out
different.
there. Just
Yeah, 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 yeah,
the braid
yeah,
caught me
yeah,
off.
yeah. Well, I mean, I do think he's supposed to be tied to her. I think he's supposed to be tied to her because he was there when he was at her birth. He was with her as she went north with along with Mance, right? I mean,
Right.
so I mean, I do think it ties him to her. Oh, his brothers. I mean, he's talked about dreaming of Bran before, right? So he probably means Bran and Rob, but
Mm,
it could also be some sort of dream of the Night's Watch potentially. I'm just throwing it out there.
yeah.
Is your sword sharp, Jon Snow? Asked Corn Halfhand across the flickering fire. My sword is Valyrian steel. The old bear gave it to me. Do you remember the words of your vow? Yes, they were not words a man was like to forget. Once said, they could never be unsaid. They changed your life forever. Isn't that the way of marriage vows? Anyway, say them again with me, Jon Snow, if you like. Their voices blended as one beneath the rising moon, while ghosts listened and the mountains themselves bore witness. Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die at my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the fire that burns against the cold, the light that brings the dawn, the horn that wakes the sleepers, the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch, for this night and all the nights to come. So voices blending sounds like a singer hive mind, and also the mountains are being personified as the land often is, with them bearing witness.
Mm.
When they were done, there was no sound but the faint crackle of the flames and a distant sigh of wind. John opened and closed his burnt fingers, holding tight to the words in his mind, praying that his father's gods would give him the strength to die bravely when his hour came. It would not be long now. The Garrons were near the end of their strength. Corin's mount would not last another day, John suspected. The flames are burning low by then, the warmth fading. The fire will soon go out, Corin said. But if the wall should ever fall, all the fires will go out. Lizzie really loves when they recite the vows. There was nothing John could say to that. He nodded. We may escape them yet, the raider said. Or not. I'm not afraid to die. It was only half a lie. We saw his thoughts. He is afraid that he will not die bravely. The only
Yeah.
time a man can be brave is when he is afraid. And John is preparing to be brave. It may not be so easy as that, John. He did not understand. What do you mean? If we are taken, you must yield. Yield? He blinked in disbelief. The Wildlings did not make captives of the men they called the Crows. They killed them, except for they only spare oathbreakers, those who join them like Mance Raider. And you, and Ned, and Jamie, and Tyrion, and Rhaegar, and Oswell. See Trip the Targaryens, episode 1. No, he shook his head. Never. I won't. You will. I command it of you. Command it? But our honor means no more than our lives, so long as the realm is safe. Are you a man of the Night's Watch? Yes, but there is no but, Jon Snow. You are or you are not. Jon sat up straight. I am. Then hear me. If we are taken, you will go over to them, as the wildling girl you captured once urged you. They made demand that you cut your cloak to ribbons, that you swear them an oath on your father's grave, that you curse your brothers and your lord commander. You must not balk, whatever is asked of you. Do as they bid you, but in your heart, remember who and what you are. Ride with them, eat with them, fight with them, for as long as it takes, and watch. 3, it ends with 3. For what? Jon asked. Would that I knew, said Corin. Your wolf saw their diggings in the valley of the Milkwater. But what did they seek in such a bleak and distant place? Did they find it? This is what you must learn before you return to Lord Mormont and your brothers. That is the duty I lay on you, Jon Snow. Not before you return to us, but before you return to Lord Mormont and your brothers. I'll do as you say, Jon said reluctantly, but you will tell them, won't you? The old bear, at least? You'll tell them that I never broke my oath. You know nothing, Jon Stark. Does that count? Corin half-hand gazed at him across the fire, his eyes lost in pools of shadow. When I see him next, I swear it. He gestured at the fire. More wood. I want it bright and hot. Jon went to cut more branches, snapping each one in two before tossing it into the flames. The tree had been dead a long time, but it seemed to live again in the fire as fiery dancers woke within each stick of wood to whirl and spin in their glowing gowns of yellow, red, and orange. So we get the symbolism of fiery dancers quite a bit, and here it's resurrecting a tree.
Yeah, also, you still possibly have Jon glimpsing or beginning the staring into the flames type thing and seeing something, but he doesn't understand what he's seeing. It's his first time seeing it that way. It's after the blood paste, his version of the blood paste with so I mean, there's something to him staring at the flames.
Yeah, and he's a Jesus figure, and the weirwoods represent the old gods, specifically, a concept of God the Father married to the tree, and so therefore you've got him arguably seeing the concept of God reborn. So they're flooring around. They see dancing maidens in the fire too. Enough, Corin said abruptly. Now we ride. Ride? It was dark beyond the fire, and the night was cold. Ride where? Back. Corin mounted his weary Garrett one more time. The fire will draw them past, I hope. Come, brother. Jon pulled on his gloves. And this is actually kind of an ingenious plan here, right? He's trying to set it up as if they were very talented. He's trying to set it up as if they were camping for the night here and then disappearing while the fire kind of distracts. It's a pretty good idea. He's like, this is one last chance to make this work.
Well, I mean, he's backtracking over his tracks in the dark of night. Then it might be overlooked as the original tracks and then not catch it. So I mean, it's a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Jon pulled on his gloves again and raised his hood. Even the horses seemed reluctant to leave the fire. The sun was long gone, and only the cold silver shine of the half-moon remained to light their way over the treacherous ground that lay behind them. He did not know what Corin had in mind, but perhaps it was a chance. He hoped so. I do not want to play the Oathbreaker, even for good reason. So a half-moon is midway between a new and full moon, a week after one and before the other. It's either a first quarter waxing visible before midnight or a third quarter waning visible after midnight. But in reality, George just has the moon of whatever phase he wants rise at sunset. So anyway, they went cautiously, moving as silent as man.
Yep. If I know George said it's not a wobbling Earth that's causing the seasons or anything like that, but if there is a wobble to this planet, would it not throw off the moons or no?
Nope.
Don't shake your head at me. It's a good question.
No, the point is when the moon is slower than it's a lot slower than a rotation of the day, right? In fact it's 29 and a half days. So it barely moves. It barely moves. It moves less than an hour each day. So it's as if you stuck an object up in the sky right?
Right.
And so the angle at which it's at will determine how lit up it is. So if the angle it's at is directly opposite of the sun, it's going to be a full moon. If the angle it's
Right.
at is towards the sun, it's going to be a new moon. So it's unless you're saying that somehow the moon is like spinning much faster around the Earth or something, it's just not going to. No, I mean it's not going to do it.
You hush. I failed science.
All right. Uh, they were cautious. They went cautiously, moving as silent as man and horse could move, retracing their steps until they reached the mouth of a narrow defile where an icy little stream emerged from between two mountains. John remembered the place. They had watered the horses here before the sun went down. The water's icing up, Corn observed as he turned aside. Else we'd ride in the stream bed. If we break the ice, they are like to see. Keep close to the cliffs. There's a crook a half-mile on that will hide us. He rode into the defile. John gave one last wistful look to their distant fire and followed. The farther in they went, the closer the cliffs pressed to either side. They followed the moonlit ribbon of stream back towards its source. Icicles bearded its stony banks, but John could still hear the sound of rushing water beneath the thin, hard crust. A great jumble of fallen rock blocked their way partway up, where a section of the cliff face had fallen, but the sure-footed little Garans were able to pick their way through. Beyond, the walls pinched in sharply, and the stream led them to the foot of a tall, twisting waterfall. The air was full of mist, like the breath of some vast, cold beast. Ooh, like the breath of the ice dragon, which is located at the wall. Anyway, the tumbling water shone silver in the moonlight. John looked about in dismay. There's no way out. He and Corey might be able to climb the cliffs, but not with the horses. He did not think they would last long afoot. Quickly now, the half-hand commanded. The big man on the small horse rode over the ice-slick stones, right into the curtain of water, and vanished. He did not reappear. John put his heels into his horse and went after. His Garin did his best to shy away. The falling water slapped at them with frozen fists. The shock of the cold seemed to stop John's breath. Then he was through, drenched and shivering, but through. This has a certain Narnia entrance vibe to it. Symbolically, it's like passing through the veil of death.
Yeah. And also the shock of the cold stopped his breath.
And when we see people die, including Renly and John, they say cold, basically, right? So
yeah. Well, could the opposite later be true? The shock of the cold bring him back to life?
Well, I think that previous vision of the flames seemed to show the idea of him being reborn in the flames.
Okay.
That's how I took it. The cleft in the rock was barely large enough for man and horse to pass, but beyond, the walls opened up and the floor turned to soft sand. John could feel the spray freezing in his beard. Ghost burst through the waterfall in an angry rush, shook droplets from his fur, sniffed at the darkness suspiciously, then lifted a leg against one rocky wall. Corn had already dismounted. John did the same. You knew this place was here. So Ghost claims the realm of the dead, which seems appropriate.
There you go.
When I was no older than you, I heard a brother tell how he followed a shadow cat through these falls. He unsaddled his horse, removed her bit and bridle, and ran his fingers through her shaggy mane. There's a way through the heart of the mountain. Come dawn, if they have not found us, we will press on. The first watch is mine, brother. Horn seated himself on the sand, his back to a wall, no more than a vague black shadow in the gloom of the cave. Over the rush of falling waters, John heard a soft sound of steel on leather that could only mean that the half-hand had drawn his sword. So I think this is actually hyperbole when he says, I was no older than you.
Yeah.
Or he may be in the habit of building on his false backstory. So Gerald Hightower would have been in his 20s when he was named Lord Commander. But hyperbole and trying to relate to your audience are both rather human. So I certainly, but I do understand how a skeptic would consider this significant evidence for alternative interpretations from our own.
Yeah.
And Chris is good boy about Ghost claiming the realm of the dead there.
Yeah. The argument that Half-Hand is Oswald Went is continuously the sharpening of the sword. Is your sword sharp? Because he's the one sharpening his sword.
Sharpen the sword and the
right.
Yep.
But like you said, George keeps it ambiguous and.
Yep. And this is going to be the chapter where we really get the symbolism that he's the white bull.
Bingo.
He took off his wet cloak, but it was too cold and damp here. And see Trip with the Grins episode 6, but we'll bring that back up again later. He took off his wet cloak, but it was too cold and damp here to strip down any further. Ghost stretched out beside him and licked his glove before curling up to sleep. Jon was grateful for his warmth. He wondered if the fire was still burning outside or if it had gone out by now. If the wall should ever fall, all the fires will go out. The moon shone through the curtain of falling water to lay a shimmering pale stripe across the sand, but after a time that too faded and went dark. Sleep came at last, and with it nightmares. He dreamed of burning castles and dead men rising unquiet from their graves. It was still dark when Corn woke him. While the half-hand slept, Jon sat with his back to the cave wall, listening to the water and waiting for the dawn. So I do think that's kind of interesting that he's dreaming of burning castles and dead men rising, but of course that's what happened when he sort of fell asleep while the Lord Commander is being attacked. So I don't know. So it could just be a traumatic flashback, or it could be some sort of additional foreshadowing.
Right.
So anyway, he's waiting for the dawn. We get at break of day. So waiting for the dawn, and then it breaks. In Jon's chapter, when the last hero is said to have a broken sword, Jon, a character awarded an ancestral magic sword by the family in the north that represents female equality after he proves himself worthy of it. What could it possibly symbolize? See shirt or Triplet Targaryens episodes 1, 2, and 7. They each chewed a half-frozen strip of horse meat, then saddled their Garrons once again and fastened their black cloaks around their shoulders. During his watch, the half-hand had made a half-dozen torches, soaking bundles of dry moss with the oil he carried in his saddlebag. He lit the first one now and led the way down to the dark, holding the pale flame up before him. Jon followed with the horses. The stony path twisted and turned, first down, then up, then down more steeply. In spots, it grew so narrow it was hard to convince the Garrons they could squeeze through. By the time we come out, we will have lost them, he told himself as they went. Not even an eagle can see through solid stone. We will have lost them, and we will ride hard for the fist and tell the old bear all we know. So he told himself implies he knows he might be wrong. Sadly, later he told himself the arrow was not his, but he had changed arrows twice. George loves irony.
Yes.
The light that brings the Jon, and the truth is out there. 5 and 6 and 7. Make it up for Wednesday. But when they emerged back into the light, long hours later, the eagle was waiting for them, perched on a dead tree 100 feet up the slope. Ghost went bounding up the rocks after it, but the bird flapped its wings and took to the air. Corn's mouth tightened as he followed its flight with his eyes. Here is as good a place as any to make a stand, he declared. The mouth of the cave shelters us from above, and they cannot get behind us without passing through the mountain. Is your sword sharp, Jon Snow? He asked again. Yes, he said. We'll feed the horses. They've served us bravely, poor beasts. Jon gave his Garron the last of the oats and stroked his shaggy mane while Ghost prowled restlessly amongst the rocks. He pulled his gloves on tighter and flexed his burnt fingers. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. A hunting horn echoed through the mountains, and a moment later Jon heard the baying of hounds. They will be with us soon, announced Corn. Keep your wolf in hand. Ghost, to me, Jon called. The dwarf returned reluctantly to his side, tail held stiffly behind him. Ooh, I just realized that we've got this horn blowing, and they're going to be attacked by characters that kind of represent the others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're making their final stand. And then we've got somebody switching sides who kind of represents. We've also got a return of somebody who had vanished, which would be Jon's wife. Anyway, just some thoughts as how this sort of fits the pattern that we've noticed.
Well, I mean, the cave they're coming out of also could represent the black or no, the gate in the wall, the hole in the wall that they travel through.
Yeah, it is like a gate. It is a lot like a gate opening out to the wildlands, basically.
They use the cave to go through the mountain, and you use the to go below to travel through the wall. I mean,
what is a mountain if not a natural wall, essentially, right?
Right.
Ghost to me, Jon called. The dwarf returned reluctantly to his side, tail held stiffly behind him. The wildlands came boiling over a ridge not a half a mile away.
I just realized, normally when you call an animal to you, a lot of times they tuck their tail in as a submissive type. The fact that it's out basically Ghost is ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. He knows what's coming.
Yep. I like it. The wildlands came boiling over a ridge not half a mile away. Their hounds ran before them, snarling gray-brown beasts with more than a little wolf in their blood. Ghost bared his teeth, his fur bristling. Easy, Jon murmured. Stay. Overhead, he heard a rustle of wings. The eagle landed on an outcrop of rock and screamed in triumph. The hunters approached warily, perhaps fearing arrows. Jon counted 14 with 8 dogs. Their large, round shields were made of skin stretched over woven wicker and painted with skulls. About half of them hid their faces behind crude helms of wood and boiled leather. On either wing, archers notched shafts to the strings of small wooden horn bows, but did not loose. The rest seemed to be armed with spears and mauls. One had a chipped stone axe. They wore only what bits of armor they had looted from dead rangers or stolen during raids. Wildlings did not mine or smelt. There were few smiths and fewer forges north of the wall. That's what happens when I call Jeffrey. So it's interesting that they have skulls, and of course they're led by the Lord of Bones, right? So they really do represent the idea that this is an army of the dead.
Yeah.
I
think it's weird that they did not have their archers just go ahead and plug them.
Yeah. Yep. Corin drew his longsword. A tale of how he had taught himself to fight with his left hand after losing half of his right was part of his legend. It was said that he handled a blade better now than he ever had before. Jon stood shoulder to shoulder with the big ranger and pulled Longclaw from its sheath. Despite the chill in the air, sweat stung his eyes.
Hey, there are so many little things here and there that Corin Halfhand could be 3 different people. So Arthur Dane, because of what Jamie says, that so Arthur Dane could kill all 5 of you with his left hand while taking a piss with his right. You got the sharpening of the blades for Oswald Went, and then all the majority of what Lady Thistle and you and I see as Hightower, but there's stuff to go to all 3.
Liz says, do you? I don't remember what we said when she was typing that.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, and one of the hints would be that was it Ulmer of the Kingswood that is the archer that teaches them archery at the wall. Anyway, he claims that he took off half the hand. Well, not half the hand. He claims that he put an arrow through the hand of the white bull.
Right.
10 yards below the cave mouth, the hunters halted. Their leader came on alone, riding a beast that seemed more goat than horse from the short-headed way it climbed the uneven slope. As man and mount grew nearer, Jon could hear them clattering. Both were armored in bones. Cow bones, sheep bones, the bones of goats and oryx and elk, the great bones of the hairy mammoths, and human bones as well. Does this mean Jamie would be twice as good with no right hand as half hand is with half a hand? Sorry, I fumbled. LOL.
Jamie. When he draws forth Oathkeeper after Brienne gives it to him, his Targaryen blood will ignite with the sword, and he will be the finest swordsman that has ever lived with his left hand. And then a fiery golden hand will appear on his right arm. Never mind.
Sure it will. Actually, I suppose if he gets a red priest like Makara.
Yeah.
Anyway, 10 yards below the cave mouth, the hunters halted. Their leader came on alone, riding a beast that seemed more goat than horse from the sure-footed way. Oh, we did that already.
Yeah.
And human bones as well, yep. Rattle shirt, Corin called down, icy polite. To crows, I be the Lord of Bones. The rider's helm was made from the broken skull of a giant, and all up and down his arms, bear claws had been sewn to his boiled leather. Corin snorted. I see no lord, only a dog dressed in chicken bones who rattles when he rides. While it hissed in anger and his mount reared. He did rattle. Jon could hear it. The bones were strung together loosely, so they clacked and clattered when he moved. It's your bones I'll be rattling soon, half-hand. I'll boil the flesh off you and make a birdie from your ribs. I'll carve your teeth to cast me runes and eat me oaten porridge from your skull. Ooh, that has a certain giant fee-fi-fo-fum kind of aspect to it. If you want my bones, come get them. That Rattleshirt seemed reluctant to do. His numbers meant little in the close confines of the rocks where the Black Brothers had taken their stand. To winkle them out of the cave, the wildlings need to would need to come up two at a time, but another of his company edged a horse up beside him, one of the fighting women called Spearwives. We are 4 and 10 to 2, crows, and 8 dogs to your wolf, she called. Fight or run, you are ours. Show them, commanded Rattleshirt, when reached into a blood-stained sack and drew out a trophy. Edmund had been bald as an egg, so she dangled the head by an ear. He died brave, she said. But he died, said Rattleshirt, same like you. He freed his battle axe, brandishing above his head. Good steel it was, with a wicked gleam to both blades. Edmund was never a man to neglect his weapons. The other wildlings crowded forward beside him, yelling taunts. A few chose Jon for their mockery. Is that your wolf boy? A skinny youth called, unlimbering a stone flail. He'll be my cloak before the sun is down. On the other side of the line, another spearwife opened her ragged furs to show Jon a heavy white breast. Does the baby want his mama? Come, have a suck of this, boy. The dogs were barking too. They would shame us into folly, Corn gave Jon a long look. Remember your orders. If you like, we need to flush the crows, Rattleshirt bellowed over the clamor. Feather them! No! The word burst from Jon's lips before the bowman could loose. He took 2 quick steps forward. We yield! Words bursting sounds a little bit like hidden fingers to me.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
They warned me bastard blood was craven, he heard Corn Halfhand say coldly behind him. I see it is so. Run to your new masters, coward. A good actor sells their role. Face reddening, Jon descended the slope to where Rattleshirt sat his horse. The wildling stared at him through the eyeholes of his helm and said, The free folk have no need of cravens. He is no craven. One of the archers pulled off her sewn sheepskin helm and shook out a head of shaggy red hair. This is the bastard of Winterfell, who spared me. Let him live. Jon met Egret's eyes and had no words. Let him die, insisted the master. The Black Crow is a tricksy bird. I trust him not. So in Jon's next chapter, Tormund says the same about Mance, and Mance says the same about Jon. On a rock above them, the eagle flapped its wings and split the air with a scream of fury. The bird hates you, Jon Snow, said Egret, and well he might. He was a man before you killed him. I did not know, said Jon truthfully, trying to remember the face of the man he had slain in the past. You told me Mance would take me. And he will, Egret said. Mance is not here, said Rattleshirt. Ragwile, get him. Big Spearwife narrowed her eyes and said, If the crow would join the free folk, let him show us his prowess and prove the truth of him. I'll do whatever you ask. The words came hard, but Jon said them. Rattleshirt's bone armor clattered loudly as he laughed. Then kill the half-hand, bastard. As if you could, said Corrin. Turn, Snow, and die. And then Corrin's sword was coming at him, and somehow Longclaw leapt upward to block. So, is that instinct or intervention? Whichever it is, Corrin expected it.
Well, I mean, there is also
Hit the like button to fondle the algorithm gods.
Hey, Nettles. Are you going to be on book club tonight? Let us know how your honeymoon went. But with Valerian Steel, it does seem to have a mind of its own, and it does seem to make the person that's wielding it better than they were without it. So it's either hidden fingers, divine intervention, or it could actually be the blade itself.
Stormbringer.
Yeah.
Right. Elric of Minimene's Stormbringer. Or some people probably pronounce it Meldabone, whatever. The force of impact almost knocked the bastard blade from Jon's hand and sent him staggering backward. You must not balk, whatever is asked of you. He shifted to a two-hand grip, quick enough to deliver a stroke of his own, but the big ranger brushed it aside with contemptuous ease, which sure sounds like Barristan or the other fighting Waymar, almost as if Corrin is undead or a Kingsguard. See, Triple Triggers, episode 6. Back and forth they went, black cloaks swirling. They used quickness against the savage strength of Corrin's left-hand cuts. The half-hand's longsword seemed to be everywhere at once, raining down from one side and then the other, driving him where he would, keeping him off balance. Already he could feel his arms growing numb. I'll try to be a book club, but no promises because I'll still be traveling.
Okay, well, safe travels.
Absolutely. What an awesome chapter. Even when Ghost's teeth closed savagely around the ranger's calf, somehow Corrin kept his feet. But in that instant, as he twisted, the opening was there. Jon planted and pivoted. The ranger was leaning away, and for an instant it seemed that Jon's slash had not touched him. Then a string of red tears appeared across the big man's throat, red as a ruby necklace, and the blood gushed out of him, and Corrin Halfhand fell. The
Ruby,
weirwood stigmata,
Ruby,
a red
Ruby,
smile.
Ruby. The rubies fell.
A red smile, the traditional blood sacrifice symbolism. Jon becoming Mithras by sacrificing the white bull. So the symbolism points to Corrin as the white bull. Trust the symbolism. I heard that in a YouTube series.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, but you also got the I like the ruby necklace given the rubies flash at the trident.
Okay. So you're arguing that it could also signify
Well, I'm
Rhaegar.
saying that I like the idea that another brother of the Kingsguard died at the trident when the rubies flew from the breastplate, glamored as Rhaegar.
And Lizzie says we're up to 9. Ghost muzzle was dripping red, but only the point of the bastard blade was stained, the last half-inch. Jon pulled the direwolf away and knelt with one arm around him. The light was already fading in Corrin's eyes. Sharp, he said, lifting his maimed fingers. Then his hand fell and he was gone. He knew, he thought numbly. He knew what they would ask of me. Thought of Samuel Tarly then, Gren and Dolorous Ed, Pip and Toad back at Castle Black. Had he lost them all, as he had lost Bran and Rickon and Robb? Who was he now? What was he? Get him up. Rough hands dragged him to his feet. Jon did not resist. Do you have a name? Ygritte answered for him. His name is Jon Snow. He's Eddard Stark's blood of Winterfell. Ragwile laughed. Who would have thought it? Corrin Halfhand slain by some lordling's byblow. Got him. That was Rattleshirt, still a horse. Eagle flew to him and perched atop his bony helm, screeching. He yielded, Ygritte reminded them. Aye, and slew his brother, said a short, homely man in a rust-eaten iron half-helm. Rattleshirt rode closer, bones clattering. The wolf did his work for him. It were foully done. The half-hand's death was mine. We all saw how eager you were to take it, mocked Ragwile. He is a warg, said the Lord of Bones, and a crow. I like him not. A warg he may be, Ygritte said, but that has never frightened us. Others shouted agreement. Behind the eye holes of his yellowed skull, Rattleshirt's stare was malignant, but he yielded grudgingly. These are free folk indeed, thought Jon. They burned Corrin Halfhand where he'd fallen, on a pyre made of pine needles, brush, and broken branches. Of course, if he were Targaryen, that would make a lot of sense. Anyway,
yeah,
some of the wood was still green, and it burned slow and smoky, sending a black plume up into the bright, hard blue of the sky. Afterward, Rattleshirt claimed some charred bones, while the others threw dice for the ranger's gear. Ygritte won his cloak. Ygritte, who claims Jon married her when he captured her, now gets a cloak representing his brothers. The symbolism is almost double dog daring Jon to break his vow to take no wife.
She is cloaked in the color of his family.
Nettles likes the big diss. Lizzie says we're up to 10. Will we return by the Skirling Pass, Jon asked her. He did not know if he could face those heights again, or if his Garen could survive a second crossing. No, she said. There's nothing behind us. The look she gave him was sad. By now, Mance is well down the Milkwater, marching on your wall. Up next, the bittersweet ending, Clash 69, Bran 7. The stone is strong, Bran told himself. The roots of the trees go deep, and under the ground the kings of winter sit their thrones. So long as those remained, Winterfell remained. It was not dead, just broken. Like me, he thought. I'm not dead either. We all saw how eager. How dare you mention the truth of Jon's Targ parentage while wearing that traitor's shirt, Rich? Uh-huh.
He was talking about Corrin Halfhand being Targ.
Yeah, it was actually Corrin I was referring to being, and I don't think Corrin is Targaryen.
No,
we were proposing it as a alternative symbolism of.
Well, it might have been before Nettles got here. We had mentioned that when it comes to Corrin Halfhand, there are clues that he's either Sir Arthur Dayne, Oswald Went, Sir Gerald Hightower, and then we threw in Rhaegar for shits and giggles. because I mean, there's
Would be that
symbolism
close,
or
yeah.
clues to say a lot of different things when it comes to him.
What is
Now,
dead may never die.
yeah, if he was Sir Arthur Dane, it would have been a great sword, not a long sword that he drew. So that,
Right.
in my mind, officially scratches out Sir Arthur Dane.
Well, and you've got Mance being interviewed twice. He's revealed to us twice. Each time it's implying that he's somebody different than what he appears to be, right?
Yeah,
And he's singing the Dornishman, right?
yeah.
And he specializes in a two-handed sword.
Well, I mean, now on that, the Dornishman's wife, we know how George is. If Mance is Rhaegar, it's to flip the script because Rhaegar
Right.
was actually
Has a
married
Dornish
to a
wife,
Dornish
right?
woman.
Right. He has a Dornish wife. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a Dornishman, but he was married to a Dornish woman. So I
Right.
mean, that one, as much as I like it for the Sir Arthur Dane, it could be
Interpreted.
interpreted as Rhaegar. So
Sure.
I know some
Yeah.
of the people that are watching are still on the fence, or some think it's Rhaegar. So I try to point out stuff that
Yeah. Yeah.
even if it
Like
points to something that I don't agree with, I forget who it was.
Well, that's why I
Uh,
pointed out the story about him being younger than John, right? When he went, right, as you could take that as evidence against him being the White Bull,
right.
um, but I still think he's the White Bull.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, what is it? Spear leader? Is that what Lady Thistle had
Right,
looked up?
right, and
Yeah.
and Toodles says the same thing in his take on the King's Guard. Um, yeah,
If anybody that's in the book club that has seen the notices that Richard has put up for Toodles and the coconut, was
God,
it coconut? Yeah,
Coconut God.
Coconut God. There's a couple of things they're worth the read, whether you agree with them or not. If you're so special, how does the story benefit by
Well,
having
that's part
the
of the point is that he's deliberately. I mean, whether or not he's somebody else. The point is that he's deliberately losing here.
Yeah, he's deliberately sacrificing his life for the greater good of the realm, which would be a total badass Kingsguard thing to do. So, I mean, his
Well,
relationship with
part
Matt.
of the point of the vow was specifically it says that we pledge our honor to the Night's Watch, right?
Yeah,
So no, it's to sell John because he's wanting John to go to them. He's giving him a role, and he's wanting to. He's believing that it is to elevate John so that he can win the trust of the wildlings here.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Free folk, if you
also
prefer.
possibly the message that he had for um, the old bear could possibly be relayed to Mance also, in case Mance doesn't know all the information that the Corn Halfan has about the trees have eyes again, the old gods are awakening. I mean, any information that helps Mance prepare men for the coming battle.
People who missed Book Club Ratings episode were like to be kidnapped in science. I often miss Book Club, and I've been kidnapped, but it wasn't by Lizzie. It was by Lady Thistle and Charles.
Meadows was down in Mexico, and that was a big concern we all had.
If John later finds out that he killed someone more famous, all that will happen is that John will feel worse.
I think the only person to let him know who Corn Halfan is would be Mance Raider.
Or Bran.
Yeah, or Bran.
Bran could let anybody know anything.
Damn, Bran.
You never know. He could do anything.
He's the true villain. Bran, boo! Save Jamie.
He's the true. I think he's kind of going to be a badass. I think that all the people who love Bloodraven, I think Bran is going to be that times 10. He's going to be
Doctor Strange.
Ruthless. He's going to be ruthless though. Anyway, I've come to realize that it's Liz, maybe for mortals, but not for me.
Well, we're glad you're back safe, even though you're traveling still.
Of course, my actual meeting of you and Lizzie and Nettles and Chris was pretty somewhat similar to my kidnapping. Bran, he's our man. If he can't see it, no one can. All right,
Well,
we
I mean,
wrapping up.
I think it's funny that
Oh,
the
did you see my
uh,
post on the Red Sky?
I don't understand that one. I have
Okay,
to
so well, Toodles. We talked about this, I think, last time. So Toodles says that child of three means similar to the Tyrion Kimmerer theory that Arthur is also a father of R plus L, so it's really R plus L plus A or A plus R plus L or A plus L plus R, if I want to put it
the R
alphabetical,
and
whatever.
A plus
Anyway,
L equal, yeah.
equals whoever you believe is the offspring of Rhaegar that survives. So um, obviously triple Targaryens in our case, but anyway, the the
Oh, I
so
like that.
I'd said if she's literally a child of three, then it could be inspired by the Red Sky. So the Red Sky is a legendary incestuous. So we've got first off, the story of the Red Sky is both that he's royalty and a product of incest and incestuous himself. So
Mhm.
so you certainly could see how that could have helped inspire the Targaryens. And then one of the things I find interesting about it is the Red Sky is specifically said to have come to power after a 5-year gap. Um, so that's a really interesting statement since that was George's original plan, right? So
Yeah,
when I saw that, I was like, well, that's really interesting. It's specifically referred to as the 5-year interregnum, and you look it up, and it's like just means a gap, just means a gap, basically. So, and then of course, Red Sky kind of reminds us of the Red Comet, and anyway, so I just thought it was kind of interesting.
yeah. Well, I mean, just thinking about that alone, the R and A plus L equals the three heads. Um, you do have one of the children that does look or is taken in by the Danes, that has the least amount of Targaryen looks to her in Val, um, which
Right.
that would give it some kind of a Dane connection to the three heads. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
Okay.
the was it Quaithe as the Dusky Woman or Joanna as the Dusky Woman?
Quaithe is the Dusky Woman.
Okay. Well, when I
And then
read that,
Joanna's Quaithe was the original Joanna's Alive was Joanna's Quaithe. But
right.
I personally prefer the idea that Joanna would be a silent sister in King's Landing.
Yeah, I do too. But I read it. It's good. It's um the Joanna is Quaithe. Quaithe is the Dusky Woman. The Dusky Woman does not appear the same as Joanna. So I mean, she doesn't have. I mean, Dusky Woman to me sounds kind of like someone from Dorne or
Yeah, yeah, you can see why he would think that yeah, if Quaithe were Ashara, she could still be the Dusky Woman. That certainly could be possible.
yeah, which would be a shitty place for her to end up.
Yeah,
But it is George though.
yeah. You probably haven't read the summary of the sample chapter of that, but just it's I guess it's not I don't know at her stage I guess everything is basically rape. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, it's
Well, like I
pretty
said,
grim.
he's put a couple of links to different things that other people have said. Some of the theories you'll be like, "It's a bunch of bullshit," but they are good reads. They're very very well written. I mean, they were easy to read. They were, except for the Red Sky, which I didn't quite understand. The other ones
No,
were actually
I was just observing that there's some things in there that so I had actually written when I wrote R plus L has three heads years ago. I had mentioned that Toodles believes that that R plus L is actually R plus L plus Arthur, and,
yeah
and so I had mentioned that, well, if that's true, that you can see that kind of potentially being so the Red Sky is actually supposed to resemble, like, he's supposed to have three fathers, and it's supposed to be like the top third of him resembles one father, and the middle third resembles another father, and the bottom third resembles the other father, and anyway, so I was just saying, well, if he's really doing this some sort of chimera thing with Arthur and R plus L, that he might have been inspired by the Red Sky, and the fact that the Red Sky kind of reminds me of Targaryens with the conceived of incest, and then he's somewhat of a motherfucker himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to have Tyrion and the three heads being chimeras, if that's the correct way of pronouncing it, doesn't seem
Chimera, I think it's chimera.
Chimera. Oh, well, I mean,
Anyway.
having two main people with basically the same type of birth, but then what if it is an actual trait of Targaryens to have an already impregnated egg? And
I just think it's funnier to say it that way. Mother coupling doesn't sound quite as dramatic.
Yeah, but what if that is one of their genetic abilities, is to impregnate an already impregnated egg, causing the
well, it kind of is. We see it with the Golden Company guy. Maelor? What's the name of the guy? There's a guy who has a head growing out of his.
Oh, you're talking about the guy from the Nine Penny Kings?
Yeah.
Anyway,
the point is he has that head growing out of him, which would imply the same kind of genetic abnormality, essentially.
So it's something that's established.
Meles the monstrous. That's it. Meles the monstrous.
Yeah. Thank you, Lizzie. Yes, she's Lizzie. Our second encyclopedia. Lady Thistle.
Lady Thistle. Yeah.
Which she's busy wherever she's at doing something super secret that apparently somebody has guessed and will not tell us who. Knucklehead.
Okay. All right.
Call the second head.
Less.
Oh, damn, made me snort. I try not to snort too often. Oh, that's pretty good. But yeah.
Well, there definitely was plenty of. I mean, this is one of the. That's the last Blackfire. Yep. Red skies at night. Red skies. Yeah. Red sky. Yeah. At one point I googled Red Sky legend, and rather than getting the legendary High King of Ireland, it gave me the whole Red Skies at night. Red skies. Whoa. I'm the guy that finds musical connections. Yeah. And what's the saying at Red Sky at. There's a saying like red sky in the morning and versus red sky at night from sailors as to whether it's sailor's delight. One of them sailor's delight, and the other one is sailor's fright or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, there is a saying that goes with that as well. Fix the evil twin attached as a tumor. Yep.
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Anyway, that's that horror archetype has been used again and again. Yeah, and it's kind of a real thing too. So
yeah, but I mean, him having that person Meles in the Nine Penny King has established this type of possibility that is real in this world and can be used again at his leisure. So, I mean,
in the end, you have to kill the evil twin, like Jon kills Daenerys in the show.
Boo! We don't talk show here.
Yeah, we do.
I know we do. I'm just giving her a hard time. All right. It is Friday, and always on Fridays, I try to tell everyone to have a safe and fun weekend. We want everyone back here on Monday. I found out yesterday that I am not getting keys to the trailer until next week, which pissed me off, but ain't a whole lot I can do about it. Waiting on the last inspection. Was that say?
Yeah, Tyrion points out Lizzie points out that Tyrion encounters a two-headed person too. I think that's sort of in the with Nurse and the when they're enslaved, when he's enslaved with Penny.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, it's basically a collection of freaks. Is the guy that the
big guy that takes him and everything, and that one. Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm saying with Nurse. And, yeah.
And the only reason he took Tyrion was because he played Sybass, right?
Yep. Okay. Well, in theory, but it turns out that he's willing to just have him eaten by lions for people's amusement. So,
Yeah. Danny saved him from that, which is a divine intervention as well. But we'll get there eventually.
Part of Brand's grand plan.
Yeah, there you go. He wants a little demon monkey to stay around. All right. Well, everybody, we're at the 1 hour mark. Here lately, though, we've been running kind of long, which those extra comments and talking at the end of the chapter are probably my favorite part of the live stream.
Yeah,
but
having some fun with some tinfoil theories and things.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta stretch the legs on some of these ideas, anyways. But like I said, everybody have a fun, safe weekend. We will see y'all Monday here. Please enjoy. Nettles, if you can't make it to book club, either way, still safe travels. Glad that you're headed back. Lizzie, keep giving her a hard time. And we will see all of y'all on Monday. Thank you, Chris, Sanji, Todd, Charles.
Jeffrey says he's never going to complain.
Jeffrey, never going to complain about an hour. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Good night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.